Every occupation or career path or whatever job description, or even lawyers, doctors, all those occupations have libraries or bookshelves of books where they can always go back and find a reference to better help them understand a certain situation at that moment, or it's just maybe something they may have forgotten. And it's just always good to have you a library, or have you a bookshelf of resources to be able to go to whenever you need some knowledge about something. Alright, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you a little bit about some books and resources that I used along my self-taught journey to fashion design. And I don't have all of the books that I have used as far as references are concerned. I feel like I will probably have to break this video down, or break the series down even more when it comes to the different books or whatever. But I am focusing on some beginners books. This is for people who are starting off in the beginning, and they're looking for easy to learn and understand books that will help them begin their journey and really give them some really good tips from the beginning. So when you start getting into the harder things, then you will already pretty much have an idea of what you're doing, because these books are they have helped me tremendously. Alright, so the first book that I will be discussing today is for your creative process when it comes to fashion designing. And this book is so inspiring. It has so much inspiration. It has so many things that you can learn from when it comes to the creative process of how you start your design process all the way up to when you finish your design process. This book helps you understand the process and inspiration behind fashion design. And this book here is called Fashion Design Course. So this book right here it's pretty much like an inside look and a sum of what you learn in fashion design school. And this book here, as you can see, I have like so many little sticky notes on the side. You're probably going to see a few books that have some of these on there. But this book here is pretty much for those who maybe cannot afford to go to fashion design school, but you still want to learn the process of maybe what a fashion designer who is working in the actual fashion industry, like the process and the things that they've learned in fashion design school to maybe help them along their fashion design journey. And you get an inside look at what is taught in fashion school, so I did mention that before. And you learn how to exercise your creativity by understanding all aspects of creating the finished garments. So this book right here pretty much helps you get an understanding from the very beginning, from your inspiration. So if you're inspired maybe by the culture of Japan, or just finding that inspiration in anything, whether it's architecture or gardening, or plants and history, or whatever it may be, finding that inspiration, and then it pretty much helps you to apply and transition that inspiration to your fashion design process. And that goes with finding the fabrics and the color scheme and all the mood boards and the design and all that good stuff. Alright, so my next two sets of books will be about patterns and pattern making. And the first book that I want to show you it's a good book for beginners, because I would suggest as a beginner that you begin working with a lot of commercial patterns, so you can pretty much get an understanding to understanding the patterns and the layout of patterns, how patterns transition from being that 2D flat paper pattern to a whole constructed finished garment. So this first book is The Complete Photo Guide to Perfect Fitting. This is great for taking those commercial patterns and adjusting them to fit your body perfectly by using your personalized measurements, and it's really great with teaching about alterations and things like that. And you learn a lot when it comes to fitting and the importance of fitting. And this book really is to me it complements your commercial patterns, because it really breaks down commercial patterns, and it breaks down how to adjust commercial patterns and how to use commercial patterns to pretty much make your best garment. And I absolutely sorry, I absolutely love this book, because it's full of pictures. It's literally a photo guide, and I'm going to I am going to let you take a look inside in just a second, but it has photo guides as well as instructions, and it really helps you understand the whole commercial pattern and the importance of fitting and how you adjust them and all that good stuff. So this is great for even if you are someone who maybe makes clothing, and you might want to use commercial patterns that you purchase from the store to create some of the clothing or whatever that you may make for sale, or you may make for clients or whatever. This right here will help you to take those client measurements or take your personal measurements and apply it to that pattern to adjust the pattern and still get the same looking garment that you get from the pattern. All right, so my next book is for you fashion designers who like to create your very own patterns. And this book here is like, it comes in different volumes. So I'm only going to be discussing one volume, and I've only seen volume 1, which I rented from the library, and then I actually received volume 2 as a gift. But both volumes so far has been amazing, so I'm definitely going to invest in volume 1 just because I love volume 1. But it was a library book, so I had to return that one. But I'm definitely going to invest in the volume 1 as well as the other volumes. But this volume here is volume 2, and this is the Fashion Pattern Techniques. Fashion Pattern Techniques, and it says how to make shirts, undergarments, dresses and suits, waistcoats and jackets for women and men. So this book here breaks down the process of creating your patterns from start to finish, and it starts you off with a basic bodice and a sloper, and it helps you create a completely different design with those basic two basic pieces or two basic patterns. And they also have draping techniques in here, and this is pretty much, I feel, is like a fashion designer's like a staple. This should be a staple in their library because it really has amazing tips, and it breaks it down. It breaks down it's almost like as if you're looking at when you watch me do patterns on my videos. It literally breaks it down step by step in this book, step by step in this book, where they have the points. It's almost as if you're being taught in fashion design school how to create these patterns. And I love this book. This book has helped me so much, as well as the volume 1. I think I rechecked that book out probably about 3 times. I think that was my limit was 3 checkouts, but I had it for 3 months, so it's like each checkout was like 28 days, so I had it for like 3 months, and I love volume 1. I love volume 2, and because I like volume, I couldn't find volume 2 in the library. And that's one thing that I will say, out of all the books that I'm showing you today, check your local library and see if your local library may carry some of these books, so you can maybe test them out before you actually purchase them or whatever, and see if you like them for yourself and see if they help you. And if they do help you, then you'll know that, okay, this is something I need to put in my library for references whenever I need to go back and maybe, see some things, So this Fashion Pattern Techniques is probably like my number 1, because I do as far as like commercial patterns, I like to play around with commercial patterns or whatever, and I do dib and dab in a lot of commercial patterns, but my biggest, of course, because of the creative that creative burning fire inside of me, I always want to go a little bit further and create my very own patterns, and that's what this book is really good for, is really creating your own patterns from start to finish. All right, so these next two books are all about the sewing process, and pretty much helping you learn the different techniques, different terminology as far as the sewing process is concerned. So we've already talked about the creative process. We've already talked about the pattern making process, and now we're going to be talking about the sewing process or the production process. And the first book that I'm going to show you is The Complete Book of Sewing Shortcuts. OMG. This book here teaches you about different seams and hems, and pretty much like give you like shortcuts and tips and tricks on how to make your sewing process much faster but still come out looking very, very clean and professional. I absolutely love this book. This is definitely a staple. I actually got this book off of eBay. It's a used book. I think I got it off of eBay. Did I get this off of eBay? I think I got this book off eBay. It's a used book. It's a little run down, but all the pages are here, and that's all that matters. And it's a paper book. It seemed pretty old, really. Let me see if I can find the year. Yeah, 1981. So this book was published in 1981. I'm pretty much just like, oh, because I honestly feel like you really, back in the day, because the technology wasn't as big or great as it is today, you really had to know what you were doing. So that's why I'm really big on picking up books that were published many years ago, before all this new technology made things so much easier, because then you really get an idea and understanding of the process. And this book also gives you like an overview of your sewing machine and things like that. And the next book that I'm going to be talking to you about is actually going to go more in depth about sewing machines and stuff. But this book also gives you an insight of your sewing machine and different tips and tricks for that. And it also breaks down in categories different sewing tips for different things that you're doing or whatever. Alright, so this next book is for your sewing machine and your serger techniques. This book here is pretty much just your overall education of how you operate your serger and your sewing machine, and how to get the most out of your two machines. And I know that it's a lot of things that I see that my machines can do on the surface, but this book here really breaks down the insight of the things you can really do on your sewing machine and your serger. And this book is called Secrets for Successful Sewing, Techniques for Mastering Your Sewing Machine and Serger. And this book here, I'm gonna have all of the books listed below with the author's name, by them and everything, but this book here is all about your sewing machine and your serger, and getting to know them and getting to know how to use them. It even has applique serging techniques in here, which I was like, oh my goodness, I did not know I could do all of this on my sewing machine and my serger. But yes, it teaches you about different types of needles, and when to use those type of needles, as far as what type of fabric and thread and everything that you need. So it really goes into depth as far as the process of the production process of producing your garment, and how to really just get the most out of your sewing machine, and how to make sure that you're using the right things to not only care for your fabric, but also care for your sewing machine. Because a lot of times you can be using the wrong needle that can be causing distress on the fabric, as well as maybe causing distress on the machine, because it could be pulling on the fabric wrong because the needle is not correct, or whatever the case may be. So this book really helps you do, or this book really helps you learn about the different things that you need to know for your sewing machine and your serger. And so the next books that I'll be discussing will help you better learn and understand the different type of fabrics and how to properly use those fabrics for certain garments and which garments work best with what type of fabrics. It just really helps you learn all about your fabrics, which needles to use, and you know how to really work with the different types of fabrics and help you understand the different types of fabrics so you can know how to choose your fabrics throughout your design process. And the book that I'm going to be referencing today, I don't have it physically, but I did rent it from the library. I did rent it from the library, and I believe I had that book for about 3 months as well, and it was an amazing book. I'm actually going to invest in that book or whatever, as well as the other books that I discussed earlier. But this book here is called The Mood Fabric Guide, or The Mood Guide and Fabric. All right, so this book is called The Mood Guide to Fabric and Fashion. And Mood is a fabric company, and they decided to write a book and pretty much give you the details of the different types of fabrics and how to use those fabrics and which garments work really well with those fabrics. And this book is really amazing because I've learned so much. I've learned so much from reading this book. This book really teaches you a lot of things about fabric that you may not know, because I know with me, I was kind of going into this whole fashion design experience thinking that I could pretty much use whatever fabric I wanted for whatever division I have. That's what, you know, and it's like you can do that, but you have to know the risks at doing that. So learning about the different fabrics and learning how they work and all those things, because once you construct the garment, you know, you have to think about the wear and tear on the garment. Will this fabric last in this design? Like if I use this fabric for this particular design, will it hold up well for this particular design? Or, you know what I mean? You really have to really know the ins and outs of the wear and tear of the fabric and how to properly care for the fabric. It's almost like gardening. When you have a plant, you know, you have to know how much water to use for that plant and how much sunlight it needs, because if you do too much, it can cause distress. So it's just like with fabric, you have to know how to use and work with those fabrics, because if you try to do too much with the fabric, it can cause a chaotic mess or whatever. So The Mood Guide to Fabric and Fashion is a really, really good book. And another way that you can also kind of learn about your fabrics and all those different things, and just learn how to determine which fabrics works best with what, is, I would say, create your own fabric swatch book. And that's something that I've done, and I'm going to show you here, where I have a binder that's completely dedicated to fabric swatches, and I have like a oh, I'm sorry. So how about I just don't move this? So I have this binder that's completely dedicated to fabric swatches and learning about the fabrics, writing down information about the fabrics, and I've pretty much built this book from going to thrift stores and seeing a particular fabric that I may like on a garment, buying that garment and just, like, you know, playing around with the fabric. I'll cut out a swatch and put it in my swatch book, and then I'll play around with that fabric, and, you know, you could play with it on the sewing machine and all that good stuff, and just do a lot of different things with the fabric to just get an idea of what the fabric is. And I also contact textile companies or fabric companies, and I get swatches from them. Some companies give you swatches for free, and some companies make you pay for swatches. But it's really good to make sure you're building a swatch collection, so when you're going through your design process or whatever, when you get an idea, you can go to your swatch collection and see, oh my gosh, will this idea work with this type of fabric? And if you already pretty much have like a fabric swatch collection that you can take reference to, even if it's not that particular color that you want to use or whatever the case may be. You still have something similar, something, you know what I mean, like that is pretty much that type of fabric that you desire to use, and you can see how well, you know, if that design will work with that fabric. So that is another thing that I would suggest that you kind of add to your bookshelf collection, is a fabric swatch book. I do believe that they have fabric swatch published, like fabric swatch books out there or whatever, and I do think I think I've come across one. It was very expensive, but if you have the money to go ahead and purchase something like that, and as a beginner, I would suggest, as a beginner, try not to put out too much money in the beginning. And I say this because a lot of the things I feel like you learn better when you're forced to really be creative with how you develop your craft, instead of having everything laid out where you have all this money to just go spend on everything to make your life easier. It makes you lazy when it comes to learning the craft and learning different tips and tricks and just learning things. So I would say don't just go out and spend a whole bunch of money trying to buy a whole bunch of stuff. So I would suggest creating your own fabric book from, like I said, going to thrift stores, just looking at different garments and, you know, buying, you know, it's just a cheaper way to just do that. So I don't only go to thrift stores to like shop and look at, like, I go to thrift stores too to like look at different fabric on different garments, and it's just fun. It's really, really fun, and it makes the whole learning process so much fun. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful for anyone out there who was looking for some resources or trying to figure out where to begin on this new found journey that they want to begin as far as fashion design and sewing and just being creative and exercising their creativity. All right, so if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below, and be sure to check out my information box below as well to get the list of all the books that I named in this video here today. And I'll see you guys in my next video, and remember to always be beautifully you. All right, love you guys. Bye.